I wish to stand up to pay my respect and condolences to our late Minister for Commerce and Trade and member for Goilala, the late Honorable William Sam. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this member for Goilala is one fine member of Parliament. He was a performing member of Parliament and a performing minister. He will be a great loss to his family, to the people of Goilala, to Pangu Party, and I wish to also sincerely convey my condolences to Pangu Party and to the leader of Pangu Party, the Honorable Prime Minister, James Marape, and also to the people of this country, as he has contributed so much in his capacity as member for Goilala and also as a minister in various capacities. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my questions without notice to the Prime Minister is in relation to our heads of missions overseas. Mr. Deputy Speaker, before I do so, let me read to the House a letter from the Permanent Mission of the Independent State of Papua New Guinea to the United States, dated 17th of March 2022. The letter is addressed to the Acting Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the letter reads, "Dear Acting Secretary, this is to advise you that all the service providers for telephone, internet, and cable at the Chancery have been suspended their services due to non-payment of outstanding bills to the mission. We have also received a call from the office property owner informing us that they will start proceeding for eviction and will inform the U.S. State Department of their next step. The staff at the mission have not been paid since the first payday of January 2022. Bank of America had informed the mission last week that they will close the accounts of the mission due to negative balance in the account and the uncollected bank services fees. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this correspondence says, I have had enough of living like this abroad, year in, year out. Embarrassingly put on a strong face for my country. When the landlords ask for rentals, local staff are not being paid, and we beg school fees not to suspend our children from going to school. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have received the same story from our mission in our nearest neighbor, Indonesia, and our consul in Jayapura. They are virtually closed, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Our mission in Seoul, South Korea, has also closed their shop. I am told that this is the same embarrassing state of affairs in all our missions abroad, Mr. Deputy Speaker. These are our representatives, the representatives of the independent state of Papua New Guinea, Mr. Deputy Speaker. This is our face abroad, Mr. Deputy Speaker. What are we doing about it? And it is totally embarrassing, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to receive this kind of letter from our representatives who carry our face in our international missions abroad. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have 5 questions in relation to this most embarrassing and most deplorable state of affairs of our missions abroad. Number 1, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the Prime Minister aware of this situation? Number 2, if he is aware, Why has he allowed this situation to happen? Number 3, when is this situation going to be rectified, Mr. Deputy Speaker? And number 4, is it true that the Prime Minister is planning a state visit to Indonesia in the near future? How will this visit be facilitated on the ground if the PNG embassy in Jakarta is virtually closed, Mr. Deputy Speaker? While our missions are in this deplorable state, Mr. Deputy Speaker, why has PNG government been spending tens of thousands of kina in sending delegations after delegation to Dubai for the last 12 months, Mr. Deputy Speaker? Can we have a report tabled in Parliament on the benefits of these huge delegations to Dubai? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mila Tok, thank you. I want to appreciate the question by the opposition leader. It's an important question, especially in terms of our missions who are representing our country in the bilaterals and multilaterals meetings or programs that our country needs to run offshore and overseas. I want to assure our country that we, as government, take knowledge of the fact that most of our missions are trying to catch up with many of the legacies that has been outstanding for so long. Some of the rentals, some of the bills goes back many, many years, and just like many of the cleanups that we've been doing, we've been cleaning them up and they're catching up on us. When we send in money to sort out, to keep the missions running, they are also trying to catch up on outstanding bills that they've been carrying for many, many years. So that problem has been noted, and we are aware of this problem in response to his first question. And the second question, is he allowing it to happen? We're not allowing it to happen. Treasury, since January this year, has been instructed to send money not through the Foreign Affairs Department, but directly through the missions concerned, so they could administer their own administration to ensure our missions are functional. Unlike in the past where you would send the money through our Foreign Affairs, and Foreign Affairs then dispatch the money to our missions. In January, I did issue a letter that Treasury then warrant straight to the missions. So we are catching up on all those outstandings, as well as not just on the administration of the missions, but for instance, in the United Nations, or some of the our subscription fees to some of the multinationals and the agencies that we are part of, including United Nations, those bills or those fees are being addressed as we retire all these commitments. And I sincerely apologize for our faithful public servants, our heads of missions, who work in those missions and the family. I personally experienced people who work, find Papua New Guineans who work under duress and stress, carrying on with smile, representing our country. I just want to take this question and answer by thanking them that they have been serving their country very well. We hope in the future as we go forward, no more money going through Foreign Affairs to send to them, Treasury, and as we budget for them, and Treasury does warrant straight to those missions who are serving abroad. On the issue on Indonesia, we are currently holding preliminary talks with the government in Indonesia and PNG. There's a conversation for us to ramp up our relationship with Indonesia, especially from a trade perspective. Indonesia is a country of 270 million people. There's a huge consumer appetite there. Our natural resources, including our land that could be used to graze beef and grow food, as well as the energy that we produce here can be sold to Indonesia on the other side. They are emerging economic superpower. They're in the global top 20 economies. We must see Indonesia in a greater perspective. They're not just nation-to-nation relations we have, or people-to-people relation, but more importantly, there's a greater potential for an economic relationship with Indonesia. In this context, we're discussing on a visit, if not in this side of the year in the 10th Parliament, that definitely I would have a note on my desk for a visit by PNG head of government to Indonesia after the elections is conducted. So that is a work in progress, and if Indonesian mission is struggling, like we are catching up in all the other missions globally, that will be addressed to ensure that mission is functional, because the mission post in Jakarta is one of our most important mission posts, very strategic to our bilateral relationship, and especially in our effort to ramp up the economic and trade relationship. That post cannot be ignored anymore. On the delegations that are visiting Dubai, Dubai is this millennium's Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. Really, in my view, will be the melting pot of global business, commerce, and trade, as Singapore was in the last 20, 30, 40 years. There's a shift to commerce and trade being headquartered and centered in and around Dubai and the UAEs. They had the World Trade Expo running this year. PNG was given a slot. We took that slot, coordinated by our mission in Belgium, and our Deputy Prime Minister did head our delegation, as well as a number of ministers, including, for instance, the Agriculture Minister and the team, and the late minister who passed on. And I want to assure this House it wasn't a money waste. We are looking for places of export and trade and commerce that can be headquartered in or centered in. Dubai will emerge as a pivotal central point of commerce and trade and global economy spread or point of influence, especially at Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Doha and these places. You could go down to Africa, you could go back to Central Asia, come back to East Asia, or go to Europe. It's a very strategic place. We intend to make greater person-to-person, business-to-business, but also government-to-government relations. Our Deputy Prime Minister, as head of our delegation, will make a statement to the country. In fact, he's preparing a cabinet report on what was achieved, and that will come in due course. And we intend to ramp up our own presence in that melting pot of commerce and trade. And I'll just give us an indication of what has happened. The Agriculture Minister was indicating to us that their level of biosecurity measures is far lesser than some of our immediate neighbors and neighborhoods. And for instance, in the area of coffee, the equivalent to the Honorable Agriculture Minister there indicated, you could bring your coffee here in Dubai, we give you a slot, you could process here and sell right around the world with the PNG labeling on it. So in that context, those sort of visits were made. We capitalized on the high exposure Dubai and Dubai Trade Expo does make to the global business communities, and our Deputy Prime Minister did lead the delegation very well. Unfortunately, one of our ministers came back home deceased, but the program nonetheless was successful. We've established government-to-government contact, business-to-business contact, so that PNG's exposure to world of commerce and trade can be centered, not just out of PNG, out of Singapore, or out of Sydney, or in our part of the world, but also in what, in our view, our considered view, will be a center of world trade going forward into the new millennium. So our report is coming in due course, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but I just want to thank the opposition leader for raising important sensitivities on the need to ensure our trading posts are given due support.